Hey everybody, it's Shady here, and today I just want to kind of discuss something. Really, it's just what I consider to be the failings of live service games and almost like the lost potential, if you want to call it that. Yeah, the main reason I want to do this is just because it feels like the idea of a live service game, I think it's so great, but the execution has just been kind of awful in a way. Obviously, I guess to go over this first, I kind of need to explain what a live service game really is. So essentially, what a live service game is, it's basically what it is, a game, essentially getting a steady stream of content and updates over a number of years. So instead of just having a single release of a game, you have a game and then it's, they usually say they're supporting the game for up to 10 years, but really it depends on obviously the popularity and whatnot. And, you know, it just feels like there's been tons of these games that are released as live service games. Typically, they just end up dying within a couple of years. And I really feel like there's a big failing there, really. And I think where it begins, really, is in the idea of the live service game itself. I think, really, what it should be, in my opinion, is, you know, it should just be a complete game that you want to play and then just adds content. But what it ends up always becoming, or is, that it just feels like a way to nickel and dime people. It's like they released essentially, or they release usually an unfinished game, or like, you know, just some sort of clone of Fortnite or something. You know, it's always some sort of online multiplayer type game, and then all they do is just, you know, add shitloads of like costumes and blah blah blah, just as a way to get more money out of you and add these season passes and all sorts. You know, and it's no wonder why these games end up failing, really, isn't it? You know, why do I want to play a game like Fortnite when Fortnite exists? You know, like I look at Square Enix have done this so much now, haven't they? You know, you got Babylon's Fall, and more recently Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, which was the mobile game, which I think ends its service in like January or something, or like pretty soon. Like that game, or it might even be down now or something, but you know, that game wasn't even around for about a year. Essentially, it was just them turning Final Fantasy VII into some sort of like weird, like bloody, you know, battle royale type game. So essentially, you know, you have a soldier, and then you're on a battlefield, and then you just basically shooting each other. It's just Fortnite, really, isn't it? Final Fantasy VII Fortnite. There's no wonder why that game never was popular, because what Final Fantasy fan cares about that type of game? Like, it makes no sense. You know, I feel like these companies just look at dollar signs or pound signs or whatever, and they just look at the imagined riches, and don't really consider their fan base or whether this game translates well to that. Another good one is, do you guys remember Multiverses? Like, I think that game's dead already. That was basically, let's take Smash Bros, but turn it into some dumb, like, free-to-play live service game. And it's like, why would that work? It's just not going to, is it? And again, this brings me on to where these games fail. They look at the money that can be made, and they look at trying to quickly get something out there and just monetizing it. You know, Halo even was guilty of this. Look at Halo's Online. What that fucking became, an absolute mess. You know, what was always great about Halo was those games are just full of content and so much fun. You wanted to play them, and it wasn't about just selling you on bloody skins and all sorts. You know, obviously we've got a lot of other games, single player games, that they decide to do this with as well, not just multiplayer. You know. I mean, you just look at bloody, you know, this new Suicide Squad game that's happening. I mean, thankfully it's been kind of, they're delaying it now, and they're going to change things up a bit, hopefully. But yeah, they decided to take what could have been a really cool single player game, and have decided to turn it some sort of always online co-op game where you're going to buy tons of skins and stuff. And it's just going to be a grind fest, you know. That's the real issue. That, you know, they want you to play these games indefinitely. Like, look at what happened to Assassin's Creed as well. You know, those games are just great single player games. Obviously, looks like they're going back to their roots now. But I don't know if you guys played Valhalla. I mean, I think I put about 50 hours into the game, and I did enjoy it. But then yeah, I found out I was like halfway through the game. It's like 100+ hour game. It's like, I don't have the time to be playing all that. You know, a lot of us don't have that amount of hours to chuck into one game. So how you suspect people or expect people to sink in that much time into a single game is crazy. Unless it's a great, fun game or an enjoyable online experience that's well balanced for like esports or whatever, you know. Unless it's a friggin' Call of Duty or something like that, a Warzone or a Fortnite, where, you know, the core gameplay is fun enough and you have an inbuilt fan base now who are willing to spend the money, it's fine. Or, you know, something like that, then it's just not going to work. I think what they really need to do is start looking at just making a good game and adding content to it. You know, I think games, a great example of how you can, even though these games don't class themselves as live service games, but these are the ones that I think are do it successfully, and I think are the models that they should really look at moving forward if they want to continue this live service nonsense. I think first of all, I think you just have to not call your games live service anymore, because that's just, now it's got to the point where people just think it's going to be rubbish, or they have preconceived notions of what that is. And I think games that do it successfully, you look at fighting games, like I said, these aren't necessarily, they don't call themselves live service games, but they essentially are what a live service game should be. It's, you know, they release a game that people want to play, a fun, good game. You know, look at something like Street Fighter 6 or whatever. You know, that's going to have balancing tweaks and blah, blah, blah over the years. It's going to have season passes, you know, character seasons each year. We can add, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 characters each year. And people are going to be willing to spend money on costumes and all sorts, because the core game is fun and there's a lot of content there, you know. And then you look at, like, some Nintendo stuff. Look at Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Like, there's a season pass for that, and there's basically a whole extra game's worth of content they're adding over the next, what, couple of years, whatever. I don't know how long it is. And then, you know, even something like an Elden Ring, even though I guess that's not really that sort of a thing, that's not a live service game in particular, but that's a great, massive game. That's going to be adding a whole expansion this year, which it's probably going to be like 20-ish quid, but it's going to add a hell of a lot of more content to the game, and it's going to get people coming back to the game, you know. You know, you need to make a good game if you want people to play it over a long period of time. You know, MMOs are another great example, you know. Look at Final Fantasy 14. That's been going on for years now. Like Final Fantasy 11, World of Warcraft, all these games, like, people want to play those games over the years, and they add expansions and updates and all sorts, and that's where it works. You know, you can't just apply this sort of live service thing to any genre of game and just think it's going to work. And you can't just follow trends and just do another battle royale game and think it's going to be successful when those games are out there, you know. It feels like, see, my issue is that, you know, it feels like the video game industry, all they ever want to do is follow trends, as opposed to, I mean, not entirely, but it seems like the big publishers in particular, you know, yeah, Activision, you know, Ubisoft in particular, you know, Square Enix, like I said, are kind of guilty of this. You look at, like, Capcom now with the bloody Exoprimal, whatever that game is. Like, I was actually really excited for that game, and then I found out it's just some online-only live service game that I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to play that game, even if core gameplay is fun. Like, that could have been a fun, like, single-player horde mode type game with the option to co-op, but instead they want to make it an online-only thing, which basically means it's going to be dead in a year or so, or a couple of years. Like, unless your game hits off, it's basically a death knell making it a live service game, really, or an online required game, you know. But yeah, I think you know, instead of looking at how much money you can make over time with these microtransactions and this sort of stuff, the live service model, just make it a good game, and then let it be successful, and then add just more content to it, you know. And obviously, like I said, there's games that just lend themselves better to MMOs, fighting games, even racing games, you know. Look at something like Forza Horizon. You know, that took something that seemed like probably shouldn't work, like an open world racing game, and makes it work. And that even has loads of content and updates and everything, and people are willing to buy that. So yeah, it can work. Just, you know, stop being greedy. You will make your money if your game is good, you know. And I don't see, microtransactions aren't necessarily all bad. You know, cosmetic ones are not as much for I have an issue with, or if it's a good update to a game, a good expansion, then it's fine. It's not something you know, it's not a practice I love, but it's a part of it, and you know, you can ignore it for the most part. You know, yeah, I think some examples that annoy me. Again, I'm kind of just going off on a tangent now, really, but the way you don't do it is kind of like what Atlus did with Soul Hackers 2, where they basically they had, I think it was £32 worth of DLC. They locked like fan favorite demons behind a paywall and just added a couple of like rubbish episodes to barely expand the story and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. You know, like I said, I think live service games can be good if they just look at, you know, what makes sense or how to implement it properly. You know, you take a game, like you can take a single player Ollie game, like I said, look at Xenoblade, and add extra content, make it into somewhat of a live service game. You could probably even just sell costumes and stuff if you want to. Like, it can work, but it has to not be to the detriment of the game. You have to actually, you know, you can't just damage your game or build your entire game around the idea of making extra money or just nickel and diming people. You know, it has to be a secondary thing, something that you can to help enhance the game, really. That's all I really have to say anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this thing, and we're really interested to know if anyone else's thoughts on this, if they share my opinion, if they think I'm full of it, you know, I'd like to hear. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and like and subscribe if you want, and have a great rest of your day.